As soon as you open WIll You Snail for the first time, it immediately starts without losing any time in cutscenes or explanations, but still manages to tell you the story in a way that you get hooked and builds its tutorial into the narrative seamlessly. But how? Every section in a tutorial should tell the player more about your game. Here's a challenge for you. While watching this video, try to count how many elements in the tutorial of WIll You Snail do one of these things. But I would divide the levels in two categories. Levels which get the player's curiosity and levels which teach the player. Technically, an interesting story also teaches about your game, but here with teaching I mean actual gameplay. These two types of levels are evenly spread over the tutorial, so the player doesn't get overwhelmed by too much information at once. Let's go through the game step by step. In the very first level, you first see these arrow keys, which just show you how to move. Everything looks dark and mysterious, but as soon as you get to this point, you get surprised by the AI Squid, who introduces itself.
My name is Squid, and I'm the doom of humanity.
In the level after that, there is a highlighted door, and above it a button you can push. It seems to do nothing, and if you press it, Squid will eventually tell you not to, which obviously makes you even more curious what this mysterious button does and how you can open the door. But eventually you give up and go further up the level, where you see something else highlighted, a part of the story. This makes the player wonder what the whole story might be, and also gives information what to do with that button from before. Then you either go to the top right corner of the level or go back to that button, like I did, but we will stay on the main path now. These levels definitely fall into the first category, and at this point the player already has a lot of questions that keep them playing. Who is this AI? What is the story? What is the gameplay like? And so on and so on. In the third level, the player gets taught how to do a low jump, which for a beginner is really hard. Because of the comments of the AI and the help that it gives you after failing a few times, it doesn't get frustrating though. But here the game could have really messed up by the AI just telling you what to do. Instead, what was done here feels way more natural. The AI teases you that it will help you if you just die one more time and again and again and again, which also introduces the character of the AI, but I would still put this level in the second category. Except for the story snippet that you want to reach, level 4 is more a filler level where the AI talks a bit about the difficulty settings. But in level 5 the colors, the music and the overall mood completely change, and the game shows you the actual platforming gameplay for the first time, and afterwards chooses the correct difficulty for you. This is something not every game can do, because if any other character than an AI who knows about real life and calls this game a simulation would do the exact same thing, you would be thrown out of the story completely. But something that most games can do is implement a story segment in the tutorial, which makes the player excited for the game even more. Except if your story is that Bowser kidnaps Peach, because no one gets excited about that story anymore. After the dark and mysterious atmosphere, happy music sets in and the game really starts, and shows you the main mechanic of Squid predicting your movement. One thing that makes this easy enough to be the first real level is that you oftentimes have multiple paths, so it's easier to dodge traps. So, how does WIll You Snail craft these engaging first few levels? Well, it puts every interesting aspect, like the AI, the story, and the exploration into the tutorial, so the player gets to experience some of the best stuff right at the beginning. It also uses common techniques, like leading the player through levels by highlighting things. All in all, this makes for a tutorial which doesn't even feel like a tutorial, but more like you're already playing the game. If you want to know how the game continues, buy it. It's available on Steam and most modern consoles, and it's really worth it, especially if you have been following its devlogs for a while. I'm Paula, this is Coding Crate, where I code and create, and maybe sometimes discuss games. Good luck.